13th, 2003, and this is the beginning of an interview with Richard Barice at College Wesleyan Church in Marion, Indiana. Mr. Barice is 75 years old, having been born on December 10th, 1927. My name is Kelly Wansettler, and I'll be the interviewer. Richard Barice attends my church, and Mr. Barice, could you please state for the recording what Warren Branch service you served in?
I served in the United States Navy.
What was your rank?
Well, I was in Feist. First time I was a second class electronics technician, and the second time I was a chaplain and received the rank of commander.
And what war did you serve in?
I served in the Vietnam War.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
If you were drafted, how old were you when you enlisted?
I went in as enlisted man when I was 17, and I went in as a chaplain when I was 26.
What was your career or job before you joined?
Well, I was a welder for a company that built trucks and wheels, but that was just a part-time job because I went in right after high school.
Where were you living at this time?
I was living in Palmer, Massachusetts,
Who were you living with?
with my parents.
Why did you join?
It was the thing to do. The draft was on. If you didn't join, you were drafted, and no one was considered patriotic if he was drafted. So I joined.
Was your father in it?
My father was in the First World War. Served in Germany.
Did you have any brothers?
I have a brother who was in the Navy. I have a brother-in-law who was in the Army. I have a brother who was in the Army. My sister was in the Army.
What did your sister do?
She was a nurse.
For what war?
She served at the end of the Second World War.
So she was older than you?
She's older than I am.
Why did you pick the service branch you joined?
Well, if you join the Navy, at least you have a bunk to sleep in instead of on the ground, and you get 3 square meals a day. And I just enhanced by the Navy.
Tell me about your boot camp or training experiences.
Boot camp wasn't all that bad. There was wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go out marching and all kinds of things that were going on in boot camp, but it wasn't all that bad.
It wasn't really strenuous, like.
Well, you had to keep yourself physically fit because we went over the course that we had for physical fitness.
Were you only allowed to take a certain amount of belongings on the ship?
You didn't take anything with you except your wallet, your pen.
Do you remember your instructors or your commanders?
No, I can't remember them.
How did you get through the war, like through stress and everything that was going on?
That was difficult. That was very difficult. In fact, I suffered a little post-traumatic stress syndrome.
After the war?
After the war.
You stated you were in the Vietnam, but where exactly did you go? Like overseas? Where, like what seas were you in?
Well, we were stationed in Hawaii for a while, and I was on a couple ships that just went all over the Pacific and all over the Atlantic and into the Mediterranean Sea.
Do you remember arriving, like, to be in the war? Do you remember when you enlisted?
Yeah, I remember going to staging before we went, and I remember arriving there.
What was it like?
Well, it was kind of a new experience, and wonder what in the world was going to happen. But I was with people I knew, so it was very easy.
Out of your hometown?
No, people I knew in the Navy.
Oh.
I served with the Marine Corps because the Marine Corps does not have chaplains. They borrow them from the Navy. Like they borrow their doctors and the corpsmen from the Navy as well. The corpsmen are like the nurses.
So were you in the Navy first and then in the Marine when
I
you were
was in the
chaplain?
Navy first, right, and then I had a tour of duty with the Marines in Vietnam.
Oh. What types of ships were you on?
Oh my, let's see, I was on a squadron of 8 destroyers. I was on the transport that transport people, men in all over the Pacific. I was on a destroyer repair ship, and I guess those were the ships I served with.
How many different ships were you on?
Oh my goodness, that'd be hard to count. There were 8 ships in the squadron, and I served from one ship to another. I just arrived with a different ship in the squadron for a week or month or two, whatever the schedule was. And then the one transport and the one repair ship, so it'd be 3 different types of ships.
The schedule, was there a certain schedule or was it come and go, like they moved you just because?
No, we operated on a schedule. We had a 7-month cruise in the Mediterranean with the destroyers, and the transport operated out of San Francisco. We'd be out for 27 days, 28 days, and then come back in for 4 days and back out again.
Did you ever come ashore or were you mainly at sea?
Made it come ashore.
Did you ever come ashore while you were on the ships, or were you just
yes,
mainly
whenever we
sea?
got into a port to go ashore.
Were they ever in foreign countries, or were they mainly in like Hawaii and United
No,
States?
mostly foreign countries. Went to Japan and Philippines, Guam, because that's part of the U.S., and then all over the Mediterranean Sea, to France and Spain and Lebanon, and all of the islands in the Mediterranean.
What were the other countries like when you got?
What were they like?
Yeah.
Well, it was rather interesting going to the Mediterranean because they're older towns than what we have here, and it was rather interesting to see how they match the older history they have with the modern conveniences.
What were your accommodations like? Where you sleep in your house?
When I was in the Navy, I always slept in my own bunk.
What was your job and assignment during the war?
In the war, my job was chaplain. I was a regimental chaplain. We had 3 battalions in the regiment, and we had 3 chaplains, each one of the battalions, and I was the senior chaplain for the regiment.
During the war, did you do regular services?
Oh, we had services every day. Had no trouble getting people out for services, but it was all services for small units wherever we found them.
Did you see combat? Lots of combat?
Unfortunately, I did.
Were there many casualties in your unit?
Well, many casualties. One casualty is one too many, yes, but unfortunately we had a lot of people that were killed out of our outfit.
Please share with me your experiences with the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution.
I was not serving during that time. That was not a problem for us.
Okay. On November 21st, 1970, there was a raid in Vietnam. Do you remember any experiences similar to this? Like specific experiences that affected the Navy?
I'm not sure what raid you're referring to. There were raids going on all the time.
Yeah. But did any of them specifically affect you or your...
Well, yeah, our unit was constantly under fire. The bad guys had a bad habit of firing rockets at us. They would set up 10 or 20 rockets and set them off and take off. We couldn't catch them. My chapel got hit one time, but I lived in a bunker that was, must have been 3 or 4 feet thick with sandbags, and I would take a rocket, hit with a rocket.
Did he die, or did he just get wounded when he got hit by a rocket?
Oh, I never got hit. The chapel got hit. I wasn't in it at the time.
Nobody was in it?
Nobody was in it at the time.
That's good. Do you recall the Lye Massacre?
Unfortunately, I do.
Were you in service?
I was in
during
the
that
service
time?
at the time, right?
What happened?
You know, that's a bad situation. That's part of the traumatic stress syndrome. The press did a terrible job there. I'm surprised that more press people didn't get killed. I was with the regimental chaplain at regiment, and I stand in a briefing every morning with the colonel of an operation that we planned and executed, and the evaluation of it. About 2 weeks later, I'd read about the same operation they had in the press. They had the name of the operation correct, but that's all. And they did everything they could to make the American servicemen look bad. It was a bad situation. We couldn't get them to write anything decent that we did.
The American.
We couldn't get the press to write anything decent that we did.
While you're in service, did you meet any famous people or politicians?
Well, let's see. I met the Secretary of Navy one time. That's about all, I guess, except the admirals that we met.
In this picture, what are you receiving? What type of medal?
Oh, I guess that was the Vietnam combat ribbon I received. I don't remember that. How about that?
And also, in this picture, could you explain what is going on?
That was the most difficult part of the job. These rifles that are sitting in sandbags with a helmet on top represent a man who was killed. And it's my job to hold a memorial service. That's me holding a memorial service for the rest of their outfit. And that was a difficult job because I knew those guys. And the stupidity of war is seen in something like this. And I'm tore up inside because those guys are killed. And I'm supposed to say something to help these guys. And I say, Lord, I can't handle this. I'm broken up myself. But I got to keep my cool in order to help these other guys with the memorial service. That's the worst part of the job. Hated that with a perfect passion. But I had to do it.
Was there a lot of memorial services?
Unfortunately, there were a lot of memorial services. The more.
Do you recall the different presidents' reactions and actions towards the war?
Not really. The president's a commander-in-chief, and whatever he says we do. If you're a good military person, you just say yes, sir. So there was not a conflict about the president at all.
Do you remember Nixon being the president during the war?
Yes, sir. I remember Nixon very well.
What are your thoughts or feelings towards the president? Did you agree with?
Thought he was doing a good job. He didn't tell me how to do my job, so I didn't tell him how to do his job. I knew he was concerned about the war. I knew he wanted to bring it to a screeching halt.
During the war, there were a lot of anti-war happenings. How did this affect the morale of the soldiers?
What?
There were a lot of anti-war happenings.
Oh, that was bad. That was bad. That was real bad. When I came home from Vietnam, people would spit at you, give you the finger, just call all kinds of things. The anti-war feelings were bad. And these guys were serving to answer the call of the country to do this. They didn't want to be there, but they had to be. They had to answer the call, and then they come home and the country would spit on them. That was hard to take.
During the war, did you stated before the publicity, how did that affect soldiers?
Oh, they hated the publicity that they were getting because it was all bad. We built a house and a bomb shelter for a lady who had, she was a nurse and she had a orphanage. And we built a place for her, and we tried to get the press to come down and cover it. The I-Corps area governor, which is like the governor of our state, came. Kids were all dressed up. We had a big celebration, but we couldn't get the press to come and cover it. But the next day there was an accidental killing, and those Slavs descended on us in droves to cover that and write that up. That was bad.
Were you personally affected by these reactions towards the war?
Yeah, I suffered some post-traumatic stress syndrome, which does not go away in time, and I've had to go see a counselor not too long ago because this stuff was coming back over and over again.
Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
Most memorable experiences, I guess they were all holding church services, I guess, and the people coming forward making profession of faith in Christ. There are a lot of guys in Vietnam that became Christians. Some memorable experience, I guess, was getting out finally.
Were any of your comrades a prisoner of war?
No, none of the 5th Marines or the 26th Marines I served with, to my knowledge, were prisoners of war.
Did you really receive any medals or citations other than what was pictured in there?
Well, I have let's see if I can remember, I have the World War II victory ribbon, because I was in it before the war was declared over. American Service Medal, I forget what that is, and then 3 medals that came from Vietnam. And I don't remember what they were anymore. I'd have to look at it.
Do you remember who gave you these awards? Or who issued them out?
No, I don't remember. It was in my service jacket that I was given those medals, so I could just pick them up and put them on.
Do you still have your uniform?
I
That you
still
wore?
have a uniform.
Did you wear the same one, or was there like 2 different uniforms?
Oh, well, we had several different kind of uniforms. The whites with the shoulder boards on, blue with the stripes on the sleeve. There was I served in an air station, so I wore the aviation greens, and then I served with combat uniforms these guys have when I was in Vietnam.
On a lot of uniforms, there's different stripes and colors. Did the colors or stripes represent anything?
Well, here this guy has 4 stripes on. He's a captain. I had 3 full stripes. That's the commander. And 2.5 stripes is a lieutenant commander. 2 stripes is lieutenant. 1.5 half is just half the stripe. And 1 stripe is an ensign.
Does the star?
The star indicates that he's a line officer. The star is on my uniform. It would be a cross on it.
Because you're a chaplain.
Because I was a chaplain. And there's a cross on the shoulder boards that had the stripes on them also. And with a khaki uniform, I wore a cross on the one collar and similar rank on the other collar.
Do you remember when you became commander?
Yeah, I think I was in Hawaii at the time. When I was in Vietnam, I had to turn my collar in because the bad guys had my name on the assassination list. S5 came and told me that, got bad news for us. What's that? Your name's on the assassination list. What did I do that was so good? You're spending too much time in the villages. And they didn't like that. The bad guys didn't. So because they had my name on the assassination list, I had to turn my collar in so they couldn't see the cross. That's how they identified me. And wherever I went, I had to go with a contingent of Marines as bodyguards. But the Marines said, hey, nobody going to kill our chaplain, because that was their good luck charm. So we'd take some hits and be on the ground. There'd be 5 Marines on top of me to protect me. They were good guys to serve with.
Do you still keep in touch with them?
No, unfortunately I don't.
As a commander, what were some of your regular duties?
Well, the regular duties were obviously to hold services, to visit the troops and try to encourage them. When I was in Vietnam, I found out where I could get some donuts, so I put a bunch of donuts in the back of my Jeep and went up and down the line giving donuts. One time I got a whole caseload of, truckload of soda that they were going to throw away. I got that, and I'd put ice in the bag, in the trailer, and I'll lay ice around. I even found some ice cream and used some dry ice to haul that around to the troops. But wherever I went, we held church services all the time.
In the villages too.
Well, with the Marines, wherever they were stationed, because they were a small contingent here and a small contingent there, and I'd go wherever they were and hold services for them and talk with them.
Were you ever injured or wounded during the
No,
war?
I was never from not having Purple Heart ribbon, for which I'm very thankful.
Did you on the ships? Did you have any nurses that stayed on the ship?
On the transport, we had nurses because we were hauling dependents all over the Pacific. So we had one nurse and a couple of Corps Waves enlisted people that were nurses' aides.
What are dependents?
Military dependents, wives, children of the men that were stationed in the Far East, and we'd haul they'd go over by plane or ship or something, and then 6 months later when the housing was available, then we'd haul their dependents over.
Did you meet your wife during the war?
No, I met my wife in college
Oh.
long before that.
So
She had the difficult job because she had to stay home with the 4 kids while I was gone for a year, and that was tough.
did she ever, when you came back, did you, did she come visit you, like if like you're in Hawaii or something?
Well, wherever the home port of the ship I was serving on, we set up house there. She tells of an incident. I came home on July 4th, and she tells of an incident. It was Independence Day, and she lost her independence on that day.
How did you like life in the service and at sea?
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. The separation from the families was bad, but I felt I was doing something worthwhile, and it was enjoyable. And the people responded very, very well.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
How
How did you stay in touch with your family?
change? I think the family grew by that experience because they were exposed to different cultures by moving around and seeing different people in different areas. And I think they all grew by it
Did you write letters to your wife throughout?
every day. We found that a nice thing to do is get those small little tapes, and we'd send tapes back and forth. So I'd lay in my bunk and turn on the tape and listen to what Eleanor had to say, and then I'd write back to her. And we had an arrangement where we were having devotions, and we'd do the same devotional thought. So when I was in Vietnam, I'd have my devotions in the evening. She had it in the morning, and I know what she was thinking if she was reading the same thing that I'm reading now. That was enjoyable.
Did you get mail every day or every week, or
Mail was fairly regular, except when you're at sea. You have to wait till you're around a carrier, because all the mail was on the carrier, and they'd fly it over to you.
what was the food like?
Food was good. Food in Vietnam was excellent. Except if you were out in the boondocks, then you had to eat sea rations. That was bad. When you get back to the rear, the food was excellent.
Did you have plenty of supplies? Did you ever have a shortage of supplies during the war?
No, we had plenty of supplies.
Did you have something special you did for good luck or a good luck charm or anything during the war?
No, I didn't carry any good luck charms.
How do people entertain themselves?
People entertain themselves. Oh my goodness, these people are ingenious. They come up with all kinds of things to entertain themselves, but they were more interested in doing their job well.
Were there any entertainers such as like?
Yeah, Bob Hope came to Da Nang one day when we were there. I didn't go to see him though.
Did many people?
We had USO people, because I brought 2 USO girls to our cantonment out in 5th Marines, way out in the boondocks, and took them around. The guys were gaga over these round eyes they called them, as opposed to slant-eye girls.
Did anybody get seasickness?
Well, on the ships, a lot of the soldiers got sick because we troops and dependents. And a lot of those guys got seasick. I felt sorry for some of those people.
What did you do when on leave?
When on leave,
Yeah.
if I was home, I didn't leave time with my family. If I was leave on a foreign shorty, I'd go on a tour somewhere to see what the sights were in that particular country.
How old were your children during the war?
Oh, let's see. Uh, Nancy, the oldest, was 12, I guess, and Shirley was 11. Bob was 8, and Kathy was about 7.
So do they remember?
Oh yes, they remember being gone.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual event?
I remember one in boot camp when I was enlisted. Some red-headed ensign came by and gave an inspection, and first they inspect the barracks, and then they inspect the troops. And one guy had tied his C in a bag to his bunk with a granny knot instead of a square knot. And he said, "Whose sea bag is this?" And this kid said, "Mine, sir." And he said, "What are you, an original so-and-so?" And call him a nasty name. And the kid said, "Those three are you, sir?" And it just shocked us all. And when the headed ensign dumbballing him out, he said, "Do you ever hear the article such and such for the articles of the government in the Navy?" It was before we have uniform code that was called the Rocks and Shoals. "And I shall quote in part, no officer shall use profane language of any of his enlisted personnel." He was our hero, but he got all the KP and lousy duty from there on in.
What were some of the pranks that you or others would pull?
They pulled all kinds of pranks when they were relieving one another in the Mediterranean. Paint the name of the ship on the bottom of the ship. One day the captain called one of our ships and asked if he could borrow the other guy's commander's gig. That's the key. What the captain rides in. And they brought the boat alongside, brought the guys up on deck, and didn't say anything. And he called over and said, "Thought you were going to send my gig over." They couldn't see it. Next thing you see, there were 4 or 5 helicopters going off that carrier looking for the gig. They're always pulling things like that.
What did you think of the other officers or fellow soldiers that you served with?
I respected them all, and they respected me. We had a good relationship with those people. They're professionals. There's no question about it. They knew what their job was, and they did it well.
Did you keep a personal diary?
No, I did not.
Do you recall when the war ended?
Yeah, I remember. It really didn't end. It just kind of wound down. It's still going on, as a matter of fact. All I got is a truce. So, yeah, I remember when it ended. And I remember when the prisoners of war got home. That was kind of a moving experience.
Was there much publicity over that?
Publicity was bad all the way through. I don't have much respect for the press.
Did you and your wife and kids celebrate after you got home from the war?
Oh, I think we celebrated every day. That was a joyous experience.
What did you do after you came home from the war?
Let's see, where did I go from there? I went from there to the senior chaplain school for 6 months. And then from there I went to the Coast Guard. I served with the Coast Guard for a couple of years because they don't have chaplains either. And I retired after that.
Where were you at for the Coast Guard?
In Cape May, New Jersey.
Could you spell that?
Cape May?
Oh, M-A-Y?
M-A-Y, right. Cape May.
Okay.
It's on the southern tip of New Jersey.
Did you work after you got back?
Yes, I served for 10 years as chaplain for Houghton College, then 10 years here at IW as chaplain, and I served 4 years as the chaplain for the police department in Marion.
How did you move from how did you move to Marion?
How did
Did- Why did you move to Marion?
what did I do in Marion? Because I resigned from Houghton. It was a stressful job that I didn't like, and I said, that's it, I'm quitting. And then Dr. Lucky, who was president out here, is a friend of mine. He was pinging on me to come to Marion. That's why I came.
Was the GI Bill enact when you were during?
Very helpful because of the enlisted time I served. I got out and I got out all the way through college. Got through college.
How did the GI Bill help you?
Extremely helpful because when I got out the first time when I was enlisted and I went to college, got through college in 3 years, and then I had 1 year of seminary paid for by the GI Bill. So I just had 2 years on my own.
And did your own work help you support yourself, or did your parents
No,
help
I
pay for you?
thought that time I was supporting myself. We got married after 1 year of seminary, so Eleanor worked.
Where did you get married at?
Where?
Yeah, where at?
In Lynbrook, New York. It's on Long Island, and her home church.
Hmm.
1952.
There was a march down Broadway in Manhattan in 1985. Did you participate in any marches?
No, I did not.
Did you join a veterans organization?
I belong to the Veterans of Foreign War Post 60 here in Marion.
What did your family think of the war?
Well, they're obviously concerned about my welfare and my safety, and they're extremely happy when I came home, obviously. But I'm sure they were concerned about it.
Was your wife against the anti-war?
No, she didn't
Thanks.
join any of those anti-war things. She was a loyal American.
What did you go on to do as a career after the war? Just the
Chaplain,
chaplains?
college chaplain, and police chaplain.
When did you retire?
Which time?
Oh,
I retired
goodness.
from the Navy in 1972, after 20 years.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general?
Male?
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Well, I think anybody who served in a combat situation is a pacifist. I hate war with a purple passion. And if I could find some way not to fight a war, we'd do it, obviously. But freedom does not come cheap. And if you're going to maintain your freedom, you're going to have to pay something for it.
Do you think that the war and the situation going on now is in any relation to the Vietnam War?
No, I don't think it's a relationship to the Vietnam War. It was a different kind of war. They were sent in that war to win it. We were not sent into Vietnam to win a war. And they did a great job.
In the veterans organization that you talked about, what kinds of activities did you do?
This is a very small post, and I don't meet with them regularly because they meet on Tuesday evenings, but I have a men's group. But I meet with them periodically. It's just a small group. They don't have a building at all. But they're involved in service projects and work with the VA hospital some.
Did you attend any reunions?
No, I have not attended a single reunion.
How did your service and experiences affect your future life?
It's hard to say. I retired, and I received retirement benefits. Obviously, that's a great blessing, to say the least.
Is there anything you'd like to add that we have not covered in this interview?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.